All right, let's jump into Panini. So this is where a lot more information is and some really cool things that you could do while you're building your site, either in production or just in prototyping. So in Foundation 5, we had or we used here at Zurb, we used a static site tool called Reusable, and it was great. But when we were building Foundation 6, we wanted to offer some of these tools that we were using internally to deliver client projects to everybody else. And so we thought we wanted to include handlebar templating. So the problem with that was that Assemble didn't actually have a gulp version, and we were using gulp, so we created our own. So that's called Panini. It's a flat file page creator. It is a handlebar templating engine. It is not exactly a static site generator. It has a few different features, but it'll get you really close to everything. It basically has everything you'll need to have to in everyday production. So show you what that means. It does a lot of different things for you. There's a concept of a layout. The layout is what wraps your page content. So on every page you have a head and you have your closing body tags, and it doesn't make sense for you to copy and paste those into every new page that you create. So we have a concept of a layout. The layout is actually you have it coded one time, and then it populates, wraps around every page that you create. Partials are HTML partials. They're just pieces of HTML that you can add in multiple different places, especially if you're going to repeat a bunch of different ones. Partials is the way to go with that. Helpers, we have a lot of helpers that can be written. I'm going to show you some real life examples of helpers, and then data. You can actually store data in JSON or YAML files that you could reuse over and over again inside of your pages or your partials, which is really awesome. So I'm going to go with a high-level overview here, and then I'm going to jump into actual code examples with a full-fledged project. So the pages are your basically every page content. So that's like what you're actually putting into every page outside of the head of the document and the closing body tags. So as you create more pages, each one of them will be wrapped in the layout. Now, the way that you can define what happens on each page can actually be done with this front matter YAML. And I'll explain what all that means. But basically, you can inject information into the page. You can choose what layout you're going to use. So there's lots of different ways to use this front matter to actually configure the page that you're actually coding. So in this example, we have defined a variable of title, and the text is about. So down somewhere on your page, you're going to have an H1 with the handlebar include a title, and then it will actually, when Panini's running, basically every time you save, it'll look for this variable here and match it up and then inject this text right in there. So it may sound complicated, but it's actually really simple, and it's a way for you to inject different content onto each page using these variables. So the layout looks something like this, and you can have multiple layouts. So let's say one use case for having multiple layouts would be if you had a little bit of different branding on your website for different items. Let's say, for example, the Foundation site has Foundation for Sites, Foundation for Emails, and there's also Foundation for Apps. And each one of those has a different base color, and the footers are all different colors. So if I was to just hop over to foundation.zerb.com, you can see that there's this traditional blue footer color, but then if I hop over to email, we have this purple color. And one way to do that is to create a different layout that's importing different base colors. So that might be a use case for that. Okay, and then partials. Partials are to be used for repeated components. And so things like your header, navigation, your footer, those are obvious places where you would create partials. So I'm going to jump over and give you some real examples from a real project. Let's drag this one in and take a look. Okay, so this is a full-fledged real project that we worked on, and I've changed the names because they're private, but you can get some really good insights into how you can use this. So first, let's take a look at layouts. So we have a default layout. Anytime we're adding any kind of new scripts to the layout, we can do that right in the head. And you can see there's a lot of stuff going on in here, but if I was to just simply build this up, it would look something like this. So you can have something like, it's curly braces, greater than sign is the syntax for an HTML partial. And then we can inject our footer in here. And then we'll inject our navigation in here. So this is your layout of the page. We're saying that there's going to be a navigation at the very, very top, and then your body is going to be injected right after. Footer right below that, and then this sitemap thing, which is actually just a modal, so it could be anywhere. So that's your layout, and then if you go to your partials folder, you can see all the different partials that you might have created in your project, and then that's what we're pulling in from. So under the partials folder, the naming has to just be the name of the partial with a .html extension. When you're calling it in your actual layout, you just use this syntax here with the two curly braces, a greater than sign, and then the name of the partial. You don't need the HTML extension. It's already assumed. So in the partial, of course, I just have my navigation, which is pretty standard. So that's how I would set up a typical site. The reason we would choose to actually do it or include all the partials into the layout is that if I'm going to use this navigation or footer in every single page, then it makes sense that it's in the layout. If I was only going to use it on some pages, I would actually put the partial into the page itself.